Let's get into things. Guys, the topic for today's video is how to have tough conversations. Now, this is something that I've struggled with for a long time. This is something that's been a very big pain point for me because I guess most people default to avoiding the tough conversations, to avoiding the conflict, and it's something it's painful for a lot of people. Most people aren't that inspired to go and have those tough conversations. So I hope I'm not the only one when speaking of that's referencing that. But it is something that I find a lot of people do struggle with. So hopefully you guys get some value from today's video. So I've got some steps here that will hopefully add value to you and hopefully give you guys just a framework of how to go into tough conversations. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have them, whether you're in business, whether in a relationship, whether it's with your friends or your family. We all have those conversations that you'd like to avoid because it can be painful, it can be confrontational, and it can be emotional. So I'd love to just give you guys some basic structure of how to have those conversations, because these basic points will hopefully add some value to you guys. So first things first, the most powerful way to influence someone, it's a tool called pre-framing. It's pretty straightforward. You pretty much frame any concerns that you have about the conversation, or you frame the tone of the conversation before you have it. So a pre-frame might sound something like this. It might sound like, hey, I'm going to use a example of, say, a relationship. But you can use this with a friend, family member. If you're in a business, it might be with a team member. It could you use the same principles. Obviously, you would use slightly different words, right? So if you're having a tough conversation with your partner, it might sound something like this. It might say, hey, babe, can I please have a really open, honest conversation with you about something that's really been on my mind? And that might make the partner feel uncomfortable. They might be a little bit anxious about that. But you're at least letting them know that this is a serious conversation. This is not just, hey, look, I just want to get something off my chest. It's saying, hey, look, can I be really open, honest, and vulnerable with you and share something with you that's really been on my mind? So you want to frame the conversation at the start about what's this going to be like? What's this about? But then you also want to think of any concerns that you might run into. So any issues that you might come into during the conversation, and you want to bring that up at the start of the conversation. So say the person that you're having this chat with, say they've got a history of their ego getting really affected, or their ego showing up a lot in a conversation, then you might frame that. You would say, hey, look, babe, and just to be really transparent with you, this is a hard conversation for me to have, and probably our egos are going to come out in this conversation. So I want both of us to work really, really hard to hold each other accountable, so we can regulate our emotions the best we can, so this doesn't just turn into an argument. So try and pre-frame any concerns, whether they've done something in the past, whether there's something that if you were to say something, you think they're going to do something instead, you want to frame that. So just frame any issues or concerns that you think are going to show up in the conversation at the start, so then you can overcome that before it becomes an issue. It's like saying you want to close the objections before you get the objections, right? So that is something that has served me very, very well. So frame the conversation, so set the tone. Saying, hey, hun, or maybe you're in a business environment, you're a team leader, you might say something like, hey, look, James, I want to have a really open, honest conversation with you, mate. There's something that's a concern that I'd like to address with you in a very private matter. What time works with you to have that conversation? And you might want to book that in. So you just want to frame the tone of it, and then you want to frame or pre-frame any concerns that might pop up. So whether it be an emotional thing, whether it be an ego thing, whether it be someone just gets up and storms and walks away. Maybe they've got a history of just walking away from conversations. You might say, look, babe, just to be honest, I know, in the past we've had conversations, you've got up and just left and walked away. If that was to happen again, babe, honestly, I'd probably leave you, because this conversation needs to be had, and I'm going to do everything I can to have it. And if you refuse to have that, that gives me the answer that you just don't want to be with me. And I appreciate that. Thank you for being honest. So just be upfront, be brutal about it, and just make sure that you frame everything at the start, set the tone of it, and then pre-frame any concerns that may arise during the conversation, okay? I hope that made sense. The next point, number 2. So step 1, frame the conversation. Step 2, regulate your emotions. So this is something that I'm very guilty of not doing very, very well, especially early on when I had these conversations when I didn't know the things that I'm talking about right now. But just learning to breathe properly, learning to and stay calm. Like at the end of the day, guys, like it's you're having a conversation with someone. You're not going to kill someone. You're not going out to war. You're not. It might turn into a bit of an argument, but you want to stay as neutral as possible. Don't want to let your emotions get too involved, especially if you're wanting to have a constructive one, because I don't want to go in too much detail into this on this video, but emotions are like a drug. When you're statistically, I will screw this up, but along the lines of when you're stressed, your IQ halves within 3 minutes. So when cortisol is introduced into your bloodstream through stress, your IQ will literally half in 3 minutes. Along the lines of that, you get dumber when you're stressed. So if you're highly emotional, you're gonna make dumber decisions because you're not seeing the full picture. It's like when you're having an argument with someone, when you're really angry and you've got a lot of anger there, you probably see all the things you hate about that person or all the negative things about the person. You're not seeing all the positives about the person. They're still there. You're just not seeing it because you're so fixated and tunnel vision on the things that you don't like about them. So the more emotional you get, the less you're going to see. So you want to stay as neutral as you can. And the breathing technique that I always recommend, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds hold, 5 seconds out. So you breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, and then you let it out for 5 seconds. And when you are breathing in, guys, breathe into and try to get to the lower parts of your stomach. Don't breathe into your chest. Because again, think about having a panic attack. You breathe in really shallow and to the top part of your chest. So you want to breathe really deep into the lowest parts of your stomach. So try to do that as best that you can. Again, it's just like doing anything. It is a skill. Once you have more of these tough conversations, they become easier. I remember when I fired people, well, early days when I'd fire people, I would cry. I think for the first 5 people that I fired from my business, I cried. It was because I cared so much about them. I care about people, and the stories would go through my head like they've got bills to pay, they've got a mortgage, they've got a family, they've got kids. Like, how are they going to live? And I'll work myself up. So it was really, really challenging for me to do that versus looking at it the way I look at it now, which I'll touch on in a minute's time. But just being able to regulate your emotions through the whole conversation, really, really powerful thing to do. Okay, so make sure regulate those emotions. Okay, the next part. Step 3. So step 1, frame. Step 2, regulate those emotions. Step 3, be fucking honest. Whatever you suppress, you will express through your life somewhere, okay? So if you don't express it, you suppress it, and you express it through your body in negative ways. So it's like if you don't, say you wanted to have a tough conversation with someone, and instead of doing that, you decide not to, so you have an argument inside your fucking head over and over and over again. And it's going to affect you. It's going to hold you back. So make sure that you be honest. Speak your truth. Do not bite your tongue here. You got to speak from your heart, and you got to. The tip that I would be put next to this is your intention. It's intention over technique. They will feel you before they hear you. It's like when you go and you've all had like a sleazy salesperson try to sell you something that you don't need. Even if you needed it, their intention, because you can feel they're just trying to get the sale, they're just trying to get the money off you, like it makes you not want to buy it. Versus someone who's selling something to you or who's just genuinely trying to help you. And even if you don't really need what it is they're trying to sell, because they've got the intention that they just want to help you, you're more inclined to buy from them. So your intention is so pure. So the part that I have here, the next point from that, so your intention over technique. So step 1, frame. Step 2, regulate emotions. Step 3, your intention over technique, okay? Your intention is more important than the words that you say. They will feel you before they hear you, okay? So intention is very, very pure. Number 4, make sure you always come back to the greater picture. Always revert back to the greater cause. This is probably one of the biggest ones. So in a relationship, if this is that conversation, always reflect back to the relationship. It might sound something like this. Look, babe, the reason I'm having this conversation with you is because I fucking love you and I want this relationship to be successful. However, I know if we don't solve or work through this problem, it's going to ruin the relationship. I'm willing to work through it. are you? So it takes away that sort of directness where you're attacking the person, and it's for the greater picture. If you're in a business sense, there's a term in business that gets used a lot. No one man is bigger than the mission, or no one woman is bigger than the mission. So make sure if you're having a tough conversation, like I had to have one of these recently with one of my employees, where it was around the KPIs not being satisfied. It was the targets not getting achieved, and it was along the lines of, look, I love you. I love you as a friend, as a brother, as a sister, as a family member. However, this lack of performance right now is holding the mission back. Our mission here is to impact this many people in our business. And because of the lack of performance right now, it's stopping us from getting there. So what are we going to do to solve this? Are you committed to doing what's required to get us between where you are now to where we need to get to? So again, taking away that directness, saying this is your fault, you're shit, and just attacking the person. Have it directed at the bigger picture, which in a business sense is the mission of the business, or from a relationship, it's the relationship as a whole, or the friendship as a whole, again, depending where this conversation, the context of this conversation, okay? So let me read back those points. Frame it. Regulate your emotions, number 2. Number 3, intention over technique. They will feel you before they hear you. Number 4, make sure you always reference back to the relationship or to the greater cause, whatever the bigger picture is here, okay? Whether it's the business mission, whether it's the relationship, whether it's the friendship, whatever it is. It's like if you're in a team setting, if you're playing a sports team and say someone keeps doing something wrong, it keeps letting the team down, it's like, look, you got to step up, you got to fix this, otherwise you're letting the whole team down. Because it's never about the person. It's never about the individual. It's about the greater picture. It's the greater cause. So that would be step 4. Step 5, last step for today. This has helped me the most with my intention and mindset going into the conversation, which has made this a lot easier for me, is think of the negatives of not having the conversation for yourself, for that person, and for everyone involved. Let's use a relationship. If you have made a decision that you need to have a tough conversation about either just a challenge that you're having in the relationship or maybe leaving the relationship because they're the wrong person, if you do not have that conversation, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting the other person, and you're hurting everyone that those two people know, because both those people, yourself and the person, your partner, is not going to be the best version of themselves. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to be fulfilled in their relationship. So you're actually hurting them, you're hurting yourself and everyone that you engage with. In a business sense, if you don't have that chat, you're hurting that person, you're hurting yourself, and you're hurting the whole organization, because that person or their lack of action or their attitude or their issue or whatever the challenge is holding the mission back, and it's hurting everyone. So the way that's really helped me, I'll use an employee sense because this is something that I've really resonated with, and it's helped me a lot in the past. Say you're an employee, and say you're at a business and you're in a position and you're not the right fit. You're a great person, you got great morals, you got great values, you're a great human being, but you don't have the skill set or the mindset. You're just the wrong person for whatever reason. Does that mean that that person is the right fit somewhere else? Yes, it does. Then the wrong fit with you or in that business, but they're the right fit somewhere else. So if you do not grow the courage to have the tough conversation with them to either fix the issue or to fire that person, then you're actually holding that person back from finding the right place where they actually fit in. And the same thing in a relationship. If that person is the wrong fit for you, and you're honest enough to say that because of the way they talk to you, the way they treat you, their lack of communication, lack of fun, lack of excitement, whatever the issue is for you, the lack of treatment, and you've decided they are the wrong person for you, then every second that you do not end it with that person, you take away a second or you take away time for that person to go and find the right relationship for them. So you're actually being very fucking selfish by not having the conversation. And when that clicked for me when I really got that perception and that perspective, it fucking changed the game for me. Because now I don't look at it, oh my God, I'm so scared. I don't want to have this chat. I might hurt this person. Yes, you might hurt them short term. There might be a little bit of pain, like ripping off a Band-Aid. Yes, there might be a little bit of pain. However, the consequence of not doing it is you're actually really fucking this person's life over. You're actually really holding this person's life back. Whether that be in the relationship or the business, whatever context of the conversation is. So that for me has changed the game. So if I was to fire someone, I would frame it. I would say, hey, look, I'll use the name James again. So, hey, James, can I have a really open, honest conversation with you? This is going to be based around your performance. And honestly, mate, this is a really hard conversation for me to have because these conversations can be quite uncomfortable. So thank you for being open and honest with me. And thank you for regulating your emotions with me while I have this conversation. I'm just going to be open and honest with you directly. Your performance has not been good enough and you haven't reached what's required for this. We've already gone through the improvement plan and this isn't working out. And I know, mate, that you this means that you're not the right fit here, but it means you're the right fit somewhere else. So thank you so much for everything you've done, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, there's legal formalities that comes with firing people, blah, blah, blah. But you get the context, right? You frame it. Frame everything, like we spoke about. Frame. You want to regulate your emotions the entire way. So breathing, making sure you're staying as neutral as possible because emotions are drugs. You don't want to be drugged when having this conversation. You want to see as much information and see as much data as possible. The more emotional you get, the less you see. So stay as neutral and baseline as possible. Be open and honest. Intent over technique, okay? And your intention is so fucking important here because they'll be able to feel your intention when you're talking to them, okay? And then the last step, number 5, make sure you always bring it back to the greater good, the greater mission, the like the relationship as itself or the business mission itself. I think I've got my numbers wrong here. I think that was number 4, but so number 4 was the mission or the relationship, the greater picture, and then number 5 was seeing the consequences of not having this conversation, not just for you, but for them. You're actually holding them back. You're being selfish by not having this conversation. When that clicked for me, it made this whole process a lot easier. Guys, that's it for this video. I hope this helped. If you're watching this or you're listening to this, guys, please join my free Facebook community group, Create a Life That Inspires You. Just search on Facebook. I have courses available, guys. I have Master Your Minds and Emotions. I have a course also called Get Clear, Discover Your Purpose and Direction in Life. If you're wanting to invest into yourself and become a better version of you, I'd love to serve you. I'd love to help you. Thank you for listening. Share this with a friend. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it.